Plenty of drama unfolding on Capitol Hill despite that deal to avoid the fiscal cliff. That is a deal our next guest voted against. Joining us right now is Senator Richard Shelby. He is ranking member of the Banking Committee and one of just 8 senators who voted no on this deal. Senator, why did you vote no?
Oh, well, for obvious reasons. One, it raised a lot of taxes, over $600 billion, and a lot of other things that we're finding out were in that bill. Secondly, it didn't solve anything. We walk away from crisis to crisis. We're going to go from this crisis yesterday, 2 days ago, to another one in less than, 8 weeks.
So we are right back at the starting point for some of these negotiations. We spoke with Senator Corker yesterday, who said he thinks this negotiation will be much uglier. You agree with that?
I believe it's going to be tougher. I hope so, and I hope that the president will get involved. He's in Hawaii now. I know he's on a vacation, but he wasn't involved before. I hope he will be involved in this.
Well, he's already said that he will not negotiate on the debt ceiling.
Well, I've heard that before. Also, somebody said he drew the line in the sand, but that's not concrete. Remember that.
So what would you like to see happen with this next negotiation? What I would
like to see, Becky, I'd like to see some real effort to do something about entitlement, reform entitlements. We could do this. The president's got some capital, but he's using it up very fast. He could get involved with us. A lot of us are trying to save Social Security, make Medicare more efficient, do something about health care. Think of all these things that we could do, not counting spending. We're hemorrhaging. We're committing financial suicide. Everybody knows it, but they're not doing anything about it.
But, Senator, we know that when you say things like we'd like to reform entitlement, we'd like to make sure that these programs are around and that they are stronger, you can get everybody to agree on it. I heard an interview this morning with Nancy Pelosi where she said the same thing. It's the details that get really complicated.
Absolutely.
What specifically would you like to see done? Because that's where you're going to run into serious problems.
Well, first of all, we need to run the age up. We live longer. And we could do this, and it would not hurt anybody. People could plan on it. Secondly, we need to change.
How quickly would you run that age up, and how high would you run it up?
Well, I would keep running it up to at least 70 years of age. But I would
for Social Security?
Absolutely, but I would do it in a measured way where people could plan for it, because we are living a heck of a lot longer. Secondly, I would change that the way you compute the cost of living. It makes all the sense in the world. The president seemed to be on board on that, but we've got to get him to the table.
Well, the president was on board. He offered up changing CPI, and as Judd Gregg pointed out earlier, it was the House Republicans who walked away from that deal.
Well, I don't think they just walked away from that particular deal. They would probably be very interested. And I don't believe you can say the Republicans walked away from a real deal. They walked away from a bad deal, and they bought into a bad deal.
So, Richard, first,
hey, Judd.
Great to talk to you. You're one of the really strongest players in the Senate, and you have a huge influence there. How do you see this coming down, then, as we head into the 2 months up until the fiscal cliff comes back? Then you've got the debt ceiling, then you've got the continuing resolution. How do you see this? You know, you're a master of the process in the Senate. Where do you see the capacity of the Senate and the House and the President to come together? And what do you see as the mechanism that causes that to happen?
Well, that's an overriding question, and you've been there yourself as chairman of our budget committee and an appropriator too. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do believe if the president gets involved and he uses some capital with the Democrats in the Senate and the Republicans in the House and us too, that we can do something. Will we get a grand bargain? Probably not. That's what we really want. But we've got to do something about spending. We're still hemorrhaging. And if we just give him the debt limit, we just say, oh, you can have it, go there, and get nothing out of it, we're losing. We're losing big.
Well, if you get the president in the room, let's say, what would you want from the White House in the range of a number on the spending side that would justify moving forward to take all these other issues off the table? Or do you have a sense of that?
I have some sense of it, and my sense is quit playing around the margins, but get to the real numbers. You've seen, when you were chairman of the Budget Committee, all the growth in spending, growth in taxes, too, now, but not curtailing spending at all. We've got to do both. We haven't done it yet, and it's going to take the president. He might not get involved. His politics is on the other side of the ledger, and I guess his inclinations are on the other side of the ledger. But he is the President of the United States. He ought to be involved, but he's not yet.
Senator, I wanted to talk briefly about Wall Street and banking. You do run the banking committee, and what we should be expecting in 2013 coming out of your committee related to so many of the pieces of Dodd-Frank, which, for example, haven't been implemented, and other pieces that are still up in the air, I think, in terms of what may ultimately happen to the Consumer Protection Bureau and some of the moves that you may be pushing for.
Well, come noon today, I'll be moving over as the ranking Republican on the Appropriations Committee. I will still be the senior member of the Banking Committee, but Senator Crapo is slated to take my slot as the top Republican on the Banking Committee. So that's who you ought to talk to. I will be involved, but he will be involved in setting the agenda.
Well, what's going to happen on the Appropriations Committee? Are you going to get any appropriations bills on the floor one by one, or are we going to continue with these omnibus bills where virtually nothing can be reviewed because they come to the floor and they aren't amendable?
Judd, I believe with the leadership of Barbara Mikulski as a new chairperson of the committee, I've worked with her for years. You have too. I believe we're going to be involved, and we're going to bring those bills to the floor. We have to do it. We've got to go back to the way we used to do business, more transparency, and work harder, work nights, work days, and we'll get something done, and we'll be a better Senate.
Do you expect to see a budget on the floor? Unfortunately, the Democratic leadership hasn't brought a budget to the floor in 4 years.
That's an area you know a lot about from your past experience. I'd have to see it before I believed it.
You know, Senator Shelby, I feel sometimes like we're talking to politicians who are in two different worlds. When you talk to Democrats about some of these things, they think that with these next negotiations, they are going to see new taxes that are brought up once again, maybe a VAT tax, maybe closing some loopholes to get rid of some deductions. When you talk to Republicans, they think that we are now going to tackle spending cuts and spending alone. What does that mean just in terms of how realistic it is to think we'll get some sort of a deal that's reached in the next 2 months?
Becky, it's a good observation, but we could get a stalemate. We hope we won't get that. And I think it all is going to depend on how involved the president is in all of this, and is he willing to be the president of the United States, to bring leadership. See, think of his legacy, but think of the people of the United States first.
And what makes you think the president's going to get involved now, Richard, where basically he turned it over to Harry Reid and then over to Vice President Biden? I'm sure he had some direct control over Biden, but he wasn't actually physically in the debate, in the room. Do you think that's going to happen?
I doubt it. I said he should be involved, but I doubt he's going to get involved. He's got to get in the weeds. He's got to come to the Hill. He's got to be there. He can't be delegating it to somebody else, and that's what he's been doing.
So, Senator, in your view, don't you think the Crimson Tide has had a little bit too much success and a little bit too many titles? Wouldn't it be a little bit fairer to the rest of the teams out there if they would share some of these national championships? Are you hoping for Notre Dame on Monday night?
Well, I'm a Crimson Tide man, and Tuscaloosa's my home, and that's my school. I believe it. I'm going to say it's going to be a good game. I believe Alabama's going to win and be the national champion.
So you have
again.
no problem with, that's like the wealthy in this country. You don't have any problem with the disparity between Alabama and a lot of the other teams? You don't think that we should try and even in a more fair way, perhaps, share those national titles?
If you look at history, things level out. It might take a while. I hope it's going to be a few years.
That'd be 9. That'd be your 10th one. That's too much for any. No school needs that many, Senator.
Well, you have to win things on the battlefield and in the market and so forth. Got to earn it, and I hope we're going to earn it next Monday night.
We'll see.
Thank you.
That's good.
Sorry, we love you, Senator, but Joe and I have to take the other side of that one.
Stay tuned.
Just in the interest of fairness.
Roll Tide.
Senator Shelby, thank you very much. It's great talking to you.
Bye.
They have so much. They can't possibly.